Hi YouTube. This is going to be the third installment of my knife analysis series, and this one's going to be a little different because I'm going to talk about the different characteristics to look for when buying a knife and deciding which knife to buy. So to start off, I'll start with the most odd one of the bunch, which is the Boker Tough Thumbs designed Wartoad. So as you can see, it's already a lot different because all of these knives, other than I think one lock, so this one is a non-locking folder, friction folder. It's also a lot shorter, has a smaller blade, it's chisel ground, has 440C and G10, so pretty cheap materials. There is titanium on the handle scale on that side. So those are a lot of drawbacks, not very good materials, weird shape, small, heavy, but the thing that sets this knife apart and which made it worth buying for me was the coolness factor. So I think it's really cool looking. It's cool that it was designed by Tough Thumbs, so it's nice having one of his designs. So that's what made this knife worth buying for me, even though it is really impractical and kind of uncomfortable to carry, especially with the pocket clip that it came with. It was really small, so I made my own titanium clip. So that was the first one. Pretty impractical, but the coolness set it apart. And here is pretty much completely different. The Zero Tolerance 0808, designed by Todd Rexford, based on his cesium model, I believe. And as you can see, it's got titanium handle scales, it's a titanium frame lock. The blade steel's better, S35VN. It's a flipper, it's on bearings, relatively cheap for a titanium flipper, at around $200. So that's nice. And I think that's what makes this knife worth buying. Everything about it really makes it worth buying. It's got great feel, great length. It has a really nice design to be used, so it's comfortable. The blade shape's nice. It's not that chisel ground short blade. It's a nice shape. The length is nice and good steel. So this knife is pretty much perfect, other than being slightly small for some people, but I got pretty small hands, so it fits me well. So this knife's pretty much the opposite of the Boker Wartoad, and I don't know. I can't really think of a reason to justify buying this knife because every single thing I can think about is a positive, and I can't really think of a negative. So just buy this knife, I guess. Here's one, the Strider SNG. So the characteristic about this that I really liked was that kind of overbuilt style. Not as overbuilt as like a Direware or other customs that are a lot bigger and stronger, but still for a production type knife. It's got nice overbuilt qualities. Pretty thick titanium, thick blade. Looks really cool. I scratched the pocket clip up, I think walking past desks and stuff in my college classes, but I think that gives it a pretty cool look to it. It didn't do it on purpose, like people on Instagram do. But the coolness factor on this one is just crazy because the color scheme's really cool. The blade finish is awesome. The flamed tie and the custom lock bar stabilizer I put on there. So it's already a cool knife, but the usability, it just feels nice. The only bad thing about it is the price. So compared to every other knife on this table, it's more expensive and almost double any other knife on the table. So it's the only downside to this. So I think there's probably a couple other knives you can get for around the same price or less that have the same qualities. But it has a lot of good qualities for it, and it should, because it is such an expensive knife. Another thing I think is good, other than just being cool, because I think all of these are, well, a lot of them are cool, so all of them have the coolness factor that I'm saying. But another thing is actual usability. So I'd say that would be really nice for this Griptilian, and I forgot I had it in my pocket, so it's not laying out there. The Spyderco Endura with the ZDP 189 steel. So I'll lay that one down on top of them. But as you can see, the design isn't too, it's cool, but it's not like really eye-catching, I guess. It's kind of, it's got like an organic looking handle, really rounded blade. Nothing too special about it, but it has the ability to work hard and get used, and I've used it a lot, and nothing's ever happened to it. And that's really the reason I bought this knife, and that's the main characteristic I was looking for when I was looking for a knife at the time, was a knife I could use and take into the woods or something and not really care if it got damaged. Same with the Endura. So I wanted a knife that I could use that was strong, and ZDP 189 is a very strong steel. So that was the whole reason for me buying the Endura. The prices on these were, this was about $100, and the Benchmade was $72 when I bought it. Prices have gone up, but I thought it was a good time to buy it because of the low price and the main factor of being usable. That also really goes for the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. I guess I'll get it out too. Main thing about this is use. So the handle, kind of ugly looking, not too crazy or cool, eye-catching really. The blade kind of looks really cool. It's got the satin, it's got a cool shape to it, full flat grind, looks really sharp and is really sharp. But also mainly just a user. The build quality on all of these are really amazing. So I've never really had a knife that's had a build quality problem with something wrong with the manufacturing. I've never really had lock play. I've never had to send a knife back. The only thing I can say is really with the zero tolerance, you can't take a screw off because it's Loctited so hard. But really, that's not really a factor, because I know if I'm buying a knife, usually like 9 out of 10 times it's going to be, well, whatever, how many this is, knives, so like 20. 19 out of 20 times you're going to get a nice built knife that's not going to have any problems. At least if it's from one of these expensive makers, or a little higher quality makers. So this one, the characteristic that brought me in was the lightweightness. So it's really thin, sort of thin blade. I think it's about an 1/8 inch blade. High quality materials, S30V blade, titanium handle scales. The wire clip is really nice, and it looks really nice if you're wearing dress pants or golf pants or anything. So that's really what brought me into the Spyderco Sage 2. So right now I'll pretty much talk about what I think is the most important. I'll name a couple of the characteristics that I really look for in a knife. So first of all, I look for the design, really. That's what really catches my eye. So when I'm looking for a knife, I don't really see like the Tenacious. It's not really like a revolutionary design. It's not too crazy looking, because that's not really what drew me into this. But the design is what drew me into the Zero Tolerance 0452 CF and That's what I really like about the 0808 and the Bionic. The design is just so cool and eye-catching and kind of different looking. That's the first thing that I look for. And the second is how it actually feels. So I went to my knife store, the local knife store, and felt this, and the feel was just amazing. So got full hand from there to there, get a little bit extending out of the back, a little bit of handle, and just the way the blade flips out perfectly. It's a nice strong detent. The feel, definitely the second most important thing, I think. And I guess third would be the materials. So I do have knives of lower materials, so like 8CR13 MOV, I think right there too, or AUS 8, AUS 8 for the Utilitech 2, D2. It's not as good as S35 VN or anything, but it's not bad. So materials is really the third thing, and that's pretty much the last thing I look for. I don't go down a huge list of trying to figure out what's the best, or like of 10 things and figure out the best knife for me at the moment. I kind of just, those three things, if it really fits that category and it's what I'm looking for, then that's when I'll buy it. I'm not going to go through a whole list, and if one of them has a drawback, I won't just cancel that out. So a lot of these knives have drawbacks, like the flipper tab on this zero tolerance. Even though I said this knife was pretty much perfect, the flipper tab's a little small, so took a lot of getting used to, but you could see I could flip it out. Same with the flipper tab on the Bionic. Took a long time to get used to that, but now that I'm used to it, it's not bad. Opening the Boker Wartoad, that was a downside, but you kind of get used to most of these downsides and everything. All the downsides that I've said, really. If it has like a bad manufacturing, kind of like a screw that falls out or off-center blade or something like that, then that's a problem. But none of these have that. It's really just about like what I said. It's kind of a little design flaw in like the flipper or something. So that's pretty much all I look for in a knife. I really just look for something that's cool, something that has a nice eye-catching design, and then if it functions nicely, then I'm pretty much sold. A lot of people look to, when they do their tests, they test to see if it can cut through a cinder block or chop down a tree, like I've seen people do with like Microtechs and all these crazy tests that I don't think you need. All you need to do is just think it looks cool. The materials are good enough to withstand corrosion and use, and that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. This is the third video of the knife analysis series. Once again, I'm doing them every weekend, so don't forget to watch my previous ones and my next ones. And that's all. See ya.